My boyfriend broke up with me for quite possibly the dumbest reason imaginable, even after I stood by him for years. But here's the kicker, he must have forgotten the house is legally mine. Now, he is living out of his car. Let me give you a little background first. I had been with Finn for 6 years. 6 long years that I truly believed were built on love, loyalty, and if I am being honest, a ridiculous amount of patience on my part. And when I say patience, I mean I was the one footing the bill for almost everything while he chased one half-baked dream after another. First, it was a YouTube channel. He was convinced it would blow up, and that he would outshine PewDiePie someday. It never even got close. Then came the NFT phase. He told everyone he had his finger on the pulse of the next big thing. He absolutely did not. And let us not forget the short-lived crypto obsession, which ended with him losing nearly all of his savings. Through all of that chaos, I was the one holding everything together. The mortgage? I paid it. Utilities? All me. Groceries? Still me. Car payments? You already know, me again. Finn always had his head in the clouds, dreaming up his next move, while I played the role of the stable one. Looking back, I guess I was also the naive one for constantly buying into it. Every time he would come up with another big idea, his eyes would light up with this hopeful spark, and even though I had doubts, I always pushed them aside and supported him. He always said, "This time is going to be different." And every single time, like a fool, I believed him. Then about 2 weeks ago, things started to shift. Finn became distant, spending more time glued to his phone, and tossing out weird little phrases like he needed space to grow or wanted to find himself. At first, I brushed it off. He usually gets like that when he is cooking up another project. But this time felt off. He started making passive-aggressive remarks about the house, which was new for him. He would point out the dishes in the sink or the pile of unfolded laundry with this tone, judgmental and cold, that I had never heard from him before. Then came the moment that completely blindsided me. One evening, after I got home from work, he sat me down at our kitchen table. He had this serious, almost grave expression, the kind I had only seen on his face when he was about to admit another failed scheme. But instead of a new plan or a confession, he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I think we should break up." At first, I laughed. I genuinely thought he was joking. But his face did not change. He just stared at me with this blank, almost self-righteous expression. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I could not believe what I was hearing. This man, who I had basically been taking care of like a second job for the last 6 years, was accusing me of not doing enough. I asked him to explain himself, still trying to convince myself he had to be kidding. But no, he meant it. He said, "You never clean up after yourself, and I feel like I carry all the emotional weight in this relationship. I am the one always noticing what needs to be done." I wanted to scream. Let me lay this out clearly. I work long, exhausting hours just to keep us above water, while he lounges around trying to come up with his next brilliant idea. Sure, sometimes I am too worn out to wash dishes the second I use them or fold a load of laundry right away. Yes, I leave a coffee cup on the counter now and then, or forget to tuck my shoes under the bench. But you know what else I do? I pay every single bill that keeps this house running, and our fridge full. And Finn? His biggest contribution to our household has been rearranging the bookshelf by genre, 3 different times, and throwing away my perfectly good Tupperware because, according to him, it did not spark joy. This is the same man who throws a tantrum if the Wi-Fi goes out for 5 minutes. And guess who is always the one calling the internet provider to fix it? Me. Every holiday dinner, birthday celebration, or weekend outing. All planned by me. He cannot even order takeout without asking for my opinion 3 different times, and still manages to mess up my order. But here is where it went from ridiculous to delusional. After declaring we were done, Finn suddenly started acting like he already owned the place. He actually had the audacity to suggest this was a healthy reset for both of us. He even threw out the idea that maybe I could go stay with my mom for a while, like he expected me to move out. He even started rambling about how, once I was out of the picture, he would finally turn the guest room into his personal office. Oh, and maybe he would get a dog too, now that there would be no one left to nag him about all the pet hair. That was the moment it really hit me. This man actually seemed to believe the house was his. Either he had completely forgotten, or maybe never even knew in the first place, whose name was on that deed. Spoiler alert, it is definitely not his. Not even a little. This place was passed down to me from my grandparents. I am the sole owner. Every payment, every repair, every single utility bill, my name is the only one on those papers. So I excused myself and went upstairs, closed the bedroom door behind me, and locked it. I was not about to argue or try to change his mind. Let him believe whatever fantasy he wants to believe. Let him sit in his little illusion where he thinks he is calling the shots in this breakup. Let him imagine I am the one packing up and moving out. Because the truth, Finn has absolutely no idea what is coming next. He has no clue that he is about to lose everything. And honestly, I am kind of looking forward to watching it all finally dawn on him. Update number 1. In my last post, I mentioned that my boyfriend, well, ex-boyfriend now, decided to end things, claiming I was not doing my share around the house. Yeah. That was a joke. I have been the one paying for literally everything. The mortgage, the groceries, the electricity, you name it. And for the past 3 years, what has he been doing? Working on himself. Let us not forget, I also cooked, cleaned, and kept the entire house in order. The only thing off limits. His precious gaming setup. That was the one area I never touched. And yet, somehow, after dumping me, Finn started walking around like he owned the place. Seriously. It took him about 5 minutes to adopt this whole "man of the house" attitude. He never said it out loud, but the way he acted made it crystal clear. He lounged around like a king in a palace he had not lifted a finger to build, leaving messes everywhere and staying up until 4 in the morning gaming, like nothing had changed. He even had the nerve to start telling me what I should pack and how to organize my things when I moved out. Meanwhile, I just sat there, watching this delusion unravel like a bad sitcom. And it only got worse. About a week after the breakup, he casually let it slip that he had invited a friend over. He barely looked at me when he said it, muttering something about how I needed to respect his space. In my house. He said that. With a straight face. I just nodded and thought, okay, let's see who this friend really is. A little while later, the doorbell rang. I opened it and there she was, a woman with a bright, cheerful smile and a bottle of wine in hand. She introduced herself as Mila. And to be fair, she was lovely. Polite, friendly. Nothing about her seemed rude or off-putting. But it did not take a genius to figure out that this was no casual friend dropping by. The way she looked at Finn. Yeah. They were absolutely a couple. And Finn. He did not even try to make a proper introduction. He just brushed past me like I was part of the furniture and started giving her the grand tour of my house. He strutted around like some big-shot realtor, pointing things out as if he had designed the place himself. "This is the living room," he said, in his best salesman voice. "I have been thinking about replacing the couch, something more modern." Then he waved toward the kitchen. "I really like the open layout here. Great for entertaining." And then he said the line that nearly made me spit out my coffee, "This is my office. It is where I do most of my work." Work? Finn has not held a real job since 2018. That room, his so-called office, was the spare bedroom I set up for him in case he ever got around to doing some freelance gigs. But in reality, it is where he plays Fortnite. Mila looked around with stars in her eyes, clearly imagining herself settling into this dream life he was selling her. Meanwhile, I was standing frozen in the kitchen, gripping my coffee mug so tight I thought it might shatter. And that was the moment I realized I had a choice. I could explode, let loose, and tell them both exactly what I thought. Or I could play it cool, stay quiet, and let Finn dig his own grave, one smug lie at a time. I chose to stay quiet. I wanted to see just how far he would take this ridiculous little fantasy. That whole evening, Finn acted like he had moved on completely, like he was being kind enough to let me hang around until I figured things out. And then came the kicker. He actually pulled me aside, lowered his voice like he was doing me a favor, and said, "I think we should set a timeline for when you will be out. No pressure or anything, but Mila and I need to start planning." Planning what, exactly? A housewarming party in my living room. I just smiled at him and said, "Oh, don't worry about me. I have it all under control." You should have seen the look on his face. So full of himself. He really thought he had it all figured out. The next morning, I made my move. While Finn was still snoring away in bed, I called a locksmith. The guy showed up, swapped out every lock in the house in less than an hour, got paid, and left. I brewed myself a nice cup of tea, and sat down to enjoy the calm before the storm. A little while later, Finn strolled into the kitchen like he still owned the place. I looked up from my mug and said, "Oh, by the way, I had all the locks changed this morning." He blinked at me, confused. "Wait, what? You changed the locks? You cannot do that." I smiled. "Actually, I can." And I did. This is my house. My name is on the deed. You are not on the mortgage. You do not have a single legal tie to this place. So no, you cannot stay here. He tried to argue. Then he tried begging. And eventually, he tried guilt-tripping me. "I thought you loved me. I thought we were building a future together." Right about then, Mila showed up, probably expecting a cozy night with her new man. What she walked into instead was Finn in a panic, rushing to throw his stuff into bags while I stood there, arms crossed, reminding him not to forget his precious gaming chair. Mila looked absolutely baffled. "Wait, this is not your house," she asked. Finn could not even bring himself to answer her. By the end of the day, they were both gone. That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat down on the couch Finn had wanted to replace, and thought about how close I had come to giving up everything, for someone who never deserved a fraction of it. Never again. Oh, and in case anyone is curious, Finn is now couch surfing. A mutual friend told me Mila dumped him too, the moment she found out he was broke, unemployed, and basically homeless. Karma really is a beautiful thing. Update number 2. I genuinely thought that was the end of the whole saga. But of course, Finn could not leave things alone. A few days after he left, I got a call from our mutual friend Caleb. He said he just wanted to check in, but the way he kept circling around certain questions, I knew something was up. So I asked point blank, "Did Finn put you up to this?" There was a long pause before Caleb finally admitted the truth. Apparently, Finn had been planning the breakup for months. Months. He had been telling everyone, our friends, acquaintances, even his own family, that he was getting ready to take over the house and start some bold new chapter in his life. He played the part of the poor, patient boyfriend who had been putting up with me for years. According to his version of reality, the house basically belonged to him because of all the effort he had supposedly put into making it a home. I had to stop Caleb right there because I was laughing so hard I almost choked. What effort? Finn could not even be bothered to do his own laundry, let alone actually maintain anything in the house. I asked Caleb if Finn had ever mentioned the fact that the house is in my name. Caleb said no. In fact, Finn had been so confident that I would just hand it over without a fight, that he never even considered that I might say no. He thought that if I did resist, he would figure something out. Oh, Finn. Sweet, delusional Finn. He was so sure that I would just roll over, and let him have it all that he started celebrating before the breakup even happened. He told people he was finally free, ready to focus on his future, and even planned a housewarming party. In my house. The nerve of this man. What Caleb told me next really lit a fire in me. Apparently, Finn had been downplaying everything I ever did for him. He was out there telling people that I barely paid the bills, acting like he was the one holding our lives together. This coming from the guy who did not even know what our monthly mortgage payment was. The lies were so bold, so ridiculous, I actually laughed out loud. But after I hung up with Caleb, the laughter faded and the anger settled in. I started thinking about how I could wrap this whole thing up in a way Finn would never forget. At first, I considered just walking away. He was gone. The house was still mine. I could finally breathe again. But then I remembered all of it, years of emotional manipulation, all the times he drained me financially, and now this pathetic attempt at rewriting history. No. I was not going to let that slide. I decided to hit him where it would hurt the most, his ego. First, I sent out a calm, factual message to our group of mutual friends. I kept it polite, but I made sure to set the record straight. I explained that the house was 100% mine, legally and financially. Finn never contributed a single cent to the mortgage or household expenses. Any claims he had made about building a life together were just plain lies. To back it up, I attached screenshots of our old lease agreements, utility bills with only my name on them, and even a photo of the deed showing I was the sole owner. I did not raise my voice. I did not insult him. I simply told the truth and let the facts speak for themselves. Next, I contacted a local nonprofit that helps people furnish their homes. I donated everything Finn left behind, his old desk, that couch he never sat on, and yes, even his prized gaming chair. They were more than happy to take it all, and I was more than happy to see it gone. Finally, I reached out to Finn's parents. They had always been kind to me, and I felt like they deserved to know the truth. I did not dump everything on them, but I shared enough to make it clear that the version of the story Finn had been feeding them was completely false. That group message. It blew up almost immediately. People were stunned. Most had no idea Finn had been telling such outrageous lies. A few of his closer friends tried to defend him, saying he had been going through a lot. But I was not having that. We all go through things, I told them. That does not give you a free pass to lie and take advantage of people. Eventually, the fallout reached Finn. He called me in a rage. He accused me of destroying his life, said I had no right to air our dirty laundry like that. I stayed calm. I told him, you were the one airing lies for months. All I did was correct them. Then I hung up. And I blocked his number. As for his parents, they were shocked and deeply apologetic. His mother told me they had no idea he had been treating me so badly. She even offered to help cover some of the expenses he had racked up, but I told her it was not about the money. I just wanted them to know the truth. And the real cherry on top. A few weeks later, I was grabbing coffee when I spotted Mila across the room. She walked over clearly uncomfortable and apologized for everything. She said Finn had lied to her too, told her the house situation was mutual, that we had agreed on everything. She looked genuinely embarrassed. Then she told me something that absolutely made my week. Finn was living out of his car. Turns out, once the truth got around, none of his friends were willing to take him in. Even his parents refused to help. He had burned every bridge he had, and now he was dealing with the consequences. Look, I do not wish homelessness on anyone. But in this case, I cannot say I feel too bad. He made his choices. He dug this hole himself. Now he gets to sleep in the back seat of it. Update number 3. So, remember how I said Finn was not done trying to get his house back? Well, get comfortable, because this next part is straight out of a bad sitcom. Just last week, I was having lunch with my sister, Nora. We were sitting at this quiet little cafe when I noticed she kept glancing at her phone. She was acting strange, fidgeting, looking at me, looking away, like there was something she wanted to tell me but could not figure out how to start. Eventually, I had to ask her what was going on. Nora hesitated, then said the words no one ever wants to hear, "Please do not be mad." That is when I knew something was up. She looked nervous and admitted, "Finn reached out to me last week." I almost spit my drink across the table. What? Turns out, Finn has been going around telling anyone who will listen that we had some kind of verbal agreement about the house. According to him, we were practically married. Let me be very clear, we were not. And no, he did not significantly contribute to anything in that household. But that is not even the worst part. He had the audacity to ask Nora for money. And not just a little bit, he wanted enough to get back on his feet and fight for what is rightfully his. And she gave it to him. Now, before anyone grabs their pitchforks, let me explain something. Nora and I have always been incredibly close. She is smart, probably the sharpest person I know. But Finn must have pulled out his best performance yet, because he convinced her with some tearful sob story about how he had invested everything into our relationship, and was now living in his car because I threw him out. He even showed her screenshots of old bills he had paid, leaving out the part where he used my debit card. I felt bad for him, Nora admitted, looking ashamed. He seemed really convinced he had been wronged. He said he just needed a little help getting started again. I took a deep breath and asked the question I was almost scared to hear. How much did you give him? She looked down into her coffee and muttered, $2,000. $2,000. I was about to explode, but then she pulled out her phone and opened up their text conversation. As I scrolled through the messages, something dawned on me. Nora might actually be smarter than I thought. She had not just handed over the money out of pity. She had made Finn sign an IOU, complete with repayment terms, interest rate, and a clause naming his car as collateral. I blinked at the screen, then looked at her. Why did you go to all that trouble for a loan you probably knew he would never repay? I asked. She smirked and said, because I knew he was full of it. I wanted something on paper to show just how desperate he really is. And I had a feeling it might come in handy later. I could have hugged her on the spot. But wait, it gets better. Remember Caleb? The friend who warned me about Finn's grand scheme to take over my house. Well, he sent me a few screenshots of Finn's latest social media posts. Apparently, Finn has been posting all over the place, trying to portray himself as the poor, helpless victim of a manipulative gold digger. According to him, I trapped him in a relationship for 6 years just to leech off his future earnings. Yes. You heard that right. He thinks I spent 6 years financially supporting an unemployed man because I was secretly after all the money he might have made one day, from the endless string of failed projects I funded. The posts were filled with vague accusations about how I used him, emotionally manipulated him, and took advantage of his trusting heart. In Finn's new version of the story, he was the one carrying me. He claimed he had been my emotional rock while I struggled to maintain healthy relationships. This coming from the same guy who once had a full-blown, 3-hour meltdown because I bought the wrong brand of energy drink. But here is where it really takes a turn. My friend Zoe, who is an expert at keeping receipts, has been quietly tracking all the people Finn has reached out to. And apparently, he has been telling different versions of the story to each of them. To some, he is the victim of a controlling ex who drove him out of his own home. To others, he is the selfless partner who sacrificed everything for love. And in a few extra delusional tales, he is claiming we were business partners and I betrayed our professional agreement. His stories keep evolving. Last week, he told someone I had promised to put his name on the deed to the house, as a birthday present, but backed out to spite him. That is rich coming from the same man who completely forgot my birthday once because he was too busy chasing a dream of becoming a Twitch streamer. And just yesterday, I started getting a series of messages from him. Each one more unhinged than the last. He threatened to expose me to everyone we know. Claimed he was going to tell people all my secrets. Which is hilarious, because I am the one holding onto his secrets, like his disastrous crypto investments, or that time he tried to start a dog photography business using my camera. I have not responded to any of his messages. But you better believe I have saved every single one. Something tells me this is not the end. Finn has never exactly been great at accepting reality, and now that he has blown through the money Nora gave him, most likely on yet another ridiculous get-rich-quick scheme, I'm sure he is cooking up some new plan to get what he believes he is owed. Final update. Last Sunday, I was out doing my regular grocery shopping when I literally bumped into Finn's mom in the store. I tried to smile politely and keep walking, but she reached out, grabbed the edge of my cart and said, "We need to talk." Now, his mom had always been kind to me, even after everything fell apart. But this time, there was something different in her eyes, concern, definitely, but also a quiet kind of frustration. She asked if I would sit down with her for a coffee, and something about her tone made me agree. Once we found a table and ordered, she took a long, steadying breath and said, "I need to tell you what Finn has been up to. This has gone too far." Apparently, Finn had shown up at his parents' house a few days earlier, spinning some elaborate story about how he was reclaiming the house. He told them he had gathered evidence that I had somehow tricked him into putting all the bills in my name. He even claimed he had given me a large cash sum for the down payment. His mom said she stopped him right there and reminded him, very clearly, that she and his father had been there when I bought the house. Long before Finn even moved in. She knew the truth. But Finn would not listen, he just kept rambling, insisting he was building a legal case, and then asked them for money to help set things right. When they refused, he lost it. He started accusing them of never supporting his dreams, and claimed they were taking my side over their own son. His mom told me she had never seen him so angry, or so delusional. Her voice cracked a little when she said, "He is not the boy I raised." And then she told me things I had never known. Like how Finn had gone to his younger sister with some sob story, telling her that he had bought me out of the house months ago, and needed money to renovate his property. She is 19. She trusted him. So she gave him her savings. Or how he had gone around to different relatives, tailoring new versions of the story for each one. To some, we were secretly married. To others, he said I had promised him the house in exchange for, get this, sweat equity. His words, not mine. He even told his grandmother that I was holding his gaming equipment hostage. The same equipment I had donated to charity months ago. And then came the most unbelievable part. Finn's mom pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots of a GoFundMe page he had created. The title: "Help a local man reclaim his home from a manipulative ex." I almost choked on my coffee. The page was full of lies. Claims that he had invested his entire life savings into the home, which, again, did not exist, and that I had manipulated legal paperwork to steal everything from him. He even included photos of my house and described imaginary renovations he supposedly did. The only renovating Finn ever did in that house was rearranging the furniture whenever he was trying to avoid job applications. But the wildest part: people were actually donating. Not a huge amount, but enough to give Finn hope that his ridiculous plan might work. He had raised about $800 before his mom reported the page and had it taken down. I had to do something, she told me. He needs to face reality. She said Finn had been sleeping in his car in their driveway for the past week. Refusing to come inside. Refusing to admit the truth. Unless they agreed to support his delusional crusade, he would not even step into the house. Every morning, Finn would drive off like he had some big meeting scheduled about getting the house back. Every evening, he would return with a new tale, some fabricated update about the so-called progress he was making. But his mom. She had finally reached her limit. What pushed her over the edge was catching him on the phone one night, trying to convince Mila, you remember her, to be a character witness. He was actually asking her to testify that the house was really his. According to his mom, Mila just laughed and hung up on him. I am not telling you this to make you feel sorry for him, his mom told me, her voice steady. I am telling you so you can be prepared. Because he is not going to stop, not until reality gives him no other choice. Then she did something that completely caught me off guard. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small photo album, handing it to me across the table. Inside were snapshots from the past several years. Finn at birthday parties, family gatherings, holidays, just everyday moments. In every single photo, he was off in a corner, buried in his phone or glued to his laptop. Always working on something big, while everyone else was actually living. I should have seen it sooner, she said softly. How he uses people. How everything is always about the next scheme. The next angle. She looked me in the eyes. I enabled him for far too long. And I am sorry that you got pulled into it. I tried to hand the album back but she shook her head. No. Keep it, she said. Maybe one day, he will want to remember who he used to be. But right now, I need to do what I should have done a long time ago. That is when she told me their decision. She and Finn's dad were officially done enabling him. They were changing the locks. Cutting off the Wi-Fi. No more camping out in their driveway, no more passive tolerance of his delusions. They had arranged for him to stay with his uncle in another state, someone who had offered him an actual job. No laptops, no fantasies. Just honest, real work. She said he had two choices, take the offer and start rebuilding his life, or figure it out alone. But they were no longer going to stand by while he dragged other people down because he refused to build anything of his own. As we walked out of the cafe, she gave me a tight hug. Then she whispered, "Thank you for showing him that actions have consequences. I just wish he would actually learn from them." I stood there for a moment after she left, holding that photo album in my hands, feeling this strange blend of emotions, relief that his own parents finally saw the truth, and a quiet sadness for the version of him that could have existed, if only he had been willing to grow up.